going to dive right into it today. I actually am going live from my car. I have a presentation that I have to do for a group of kids. My friend asked me to share about my story and to help them understand, because she owns a school. And she was like, we're learning about behavior economics. Can you come speak to the kids and show them your perspective of what you do through business and the way that you do it? And I was like, absolutely, I would love to do that. So I'm here at the library, which that's where we're having it. And I was like, I don't want to not go live for you guys. So that's why I'm here. So my first question to you guys as you are hopping in, as you guys are going through certain things, what's the first thing you do when you feel like something that you have been carrying finally breaks through? The reason why I ask that is because Noah in this passage, I feel like might be what he does in this passage, I should say, might be the most important business and faith principle that we kind of go through in the entire story. And I feel like almost nobody equates it in this way. And so I hope you guys see that. So good morning to all of you as you're popping in. Good morning, Nick O, Drew, hi King. Thank you guys. So apologies if I rush through this. I want to try to get through as much as we can today. I know that we're not going to get through everything. But I kind of want to think what we're doing here with this live and what I'm hoping to do in this study today is I kind of want to think out loud with you this morning about what happens at the end of a hard season. Not necessarily the season itself, but more so the moment after. So the first breath that we feel like when we can exhale, when that hard season is starting to let up. And King, you are not getting me off top. Thank you though. That feeling of we feel like, okay, I can finally breathe again after this hard season is starting to get over. The pressure of everything starts to lift and you finally feel like you have ground under your feet again. That's where we're at. I bring this up because I started to notice something, and I noticed it not just in my life, but in the lives of so many people that I work with. The moment that we have the first instinct kicks in, I think the thing that people tend to feel in these moments is that they've been building something, and we're like, okay, we can finally take a breath. Things are starting to settle. Now let's go. Let's be in go mode. Because you've been waiting, right? You've been patient for probably a long time, and things are finally starting to move. And everything in you wants to sprint. You want to launch the thing. You want to post your win. You want to move fast before that window closes, right? We want to act on it. And I'm not necessarily saying these things are wrong, but what I see that Noah does in this passage is so different. And I think there is a reason that it is different and it matters. So Noah in this moment, what we're going to cover as much as we can today is Noah steps out of the ark, and it's a little over a year, right? over a year that he's been inside of it. And let me know, you guys, if the music gets to be too loud or you can't hear me, please. I know it kind of starts to crescendo in some places, so it can get kind of noisy. But Noah has been on this ark for more than a year with his family. And he also has the animals, and he's standing on restored ground now for the first time in over a year. And I can imagine that is a really big deal for him and his family. And before he does anything else, he goes and surveys the land before he makes a plan. He figures out what's coming next, and he builds an altar to worship. This is that first act of the season. I'm just going to turn it down. I don't know if it's just on my end. I'm going to turn it down just slightly. So, okay. So good morning to those of you that are popping in. We are getting started today. I am in my car. I have to pop into a presentation in a little under half an hour. And so I have a half an hour with you this morning. So I'm going to breeze through. I'm going to breeze through. So, Hype King, you said, how am I able to stream in my car with my regular camera? So let's see if I can show you guys. This is my computer right here. I'm in my Denali. Thankfully, I'm blessed to have a car that has Wi-Fi. And then I have my mic right here and my Bible right here. And it worked. I figured, well, my mic is portable. It just plugs into my computer. And I have Wi-Fi in my car. And so I was like, let's make it happen. I can stream and do my ministry anywhere. And so I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to have a vehicle that allows me the opportunity. So, yeah, it's nice. You're doing excellent with an awesome blue background. Yes, I normally have my office. Thank you, Danny. Thank you guys for being on this morning and pivoting with me as we kind of get through this. And so good morning to all of you as you come in. Just know I am seeing your comments. If there's a question, hopefully it doesn't ebb and flow in and out. It should be on my network. Give me one sec though. I don't want my car to automatically just turn off. So give me 1 second, you guys. I'm going to pause the live. Okay, I am back on. It was going to do an automatic shutdown, and I don't want it to do that. And so thank you guys for still staying on with me this morning. So we're going to get in it. Only have about 30 minutes with you guys this morning. And so yesterday we were in Genesis 8. We finished all of that. We are, give me 1 second. I don't know why the music stopped. I'm hoping I'm not going to have a bunch of issues this morning. We will make it work. Okay. Oh, darn it. Okay, you guys. It was fine. Hopefully, let me know if you can hear me again. I'm just going to give us a second because it's lagging. Ugh, darn it. Hopefully it works for us. If not, if it continues to do that, I can just switch to my phone. But it shows me that I'm back on, so hopefully you guys are still on with me. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So yesterday we were in Genesis 8. We finished all of that. And it is now where we are, actually we did not finish it. We are in Genesis. We'll start at Genesis 8:18. And so it says, so Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him, every animal, every creeping thing, every bird, and whatever creeps on the earth, according to their families, went out of the ark, right? That's where we left off yesterday. So we spoke about the difference between moving on and what you have to do to figure out when you are, the difference between moving on with what you have been told and trying to go out on your own, right? Noah had more than enough information to conclude that it was safe to exit the ark at this point. He waited for God. He waited for the instruction anyway. Because that same God that said, go in, Noah, is the same one that told him to go out. So those two commands frame the entire arc of the story within Genesis. They're both the same. The command came from the same source. Then we talked about where God, in verse 17, it says, bring with you every living thing of all flesh that's creeping, every creeping thing on the earth, so that they may abound on the earth and be fruitful and multiply, right? He gave that mandate. And this is verbatim from what we see in Genesis 1. God is not giving Noah a different instruction at this point, right? It's not a new assignment. He is restoring the old one. So this season was not a detour from the purpose that he gave to Noah. It was really a process of by which the purpose was going to be preserved until the ground was ready to hold it. And so we ended kind of on this note where there was a lot of order and sequence to things as they came out of the ark. And we found that this new season didn't necessarily arrive all at once. It came in order, right? In the order that people even left the ark, that was very intentional. And the first thing that we see is it kind of tells us about the sequence that God is using. And today, in this moment, Noah is out, right? His feet are on solid ground, and the first thing that he does in this moment is tells us everything about God's posture, and that he is looking in for the people that he rebuilds through. And so there's so much happening in this moment. So if you guys just jumped in, good morning. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Hopefully my audio is still good. I know that some of you said that it was cutting in and out. I'm in my car and I'm praying that the Wi-Fi sticks. If for some reason it ebbs and flows, sometimes that's because of it just being in my car. So I hope you guys bear with me and that it stays good for a minute. I might have to do some things to my car just to make sure that it doesn't. But if it pops out before 9:40, I encourage you guys to just go back to my page, and I will pop back in, and I will stay on for as long as I can. If it does become an issue, I'll just hop on my phone. We're good for now. So I'm going to try to breeze through. I see you guys all in the comments. I'm so grateful that you're hanging in with me this morning. And so this is where we're at today. We are in Genesis 8, I want to say 8:20. Okay, so this is God's covenant with creation. So it says, Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took of every clean animal and every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. Then the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake. Although the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, nor will I again destroy every living thing as I have done. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, and day and night shall not cease. So this is, to me, there's so much beauty in this element, right? This is the covenant that the Lord is making with Noah. And we see that the first thing that Noah does as he steps off of that ark is he builds an altar. So in Hebrew, the word that is used, it comes from the root, it comes from a separate root word. I think it's zabak, is how you pronounce it. But essentially what that word means is to slaughter or to sacrifice. So this isn't a monument that Noah is building, or a sort of memorial to all of the things that happened in the past. It is an act of giving something back. So what does Noah sacrifice, right? Because it doesn't specifically say exactly the animal that's being sacrificed, but we know that based on previous text, what it is that some of the animals that God instructed Noah to put on the ark were clean and unclean animals. And the beautiful element of this is that God instructed Noah to bring 7 pairs of clean animals, or seven clean animals. I don't know if it's 7 pair or 7 clean animals. I can't remember, but he instructs Noah in this moment to bring at least 7. There's so much symbolism in the number 7. We know that is God's number. That is his perfect number of completion. And I think in this element, it probably has intentionality and why he said 7. And so some of the clean animals, God instructed that very intentionally. And in this time, we know that clean animals were used for worship. So essentially, God packed an extra pair or an extra clean animals into the ark specifically because he knew that Noah would need this for this exact moment. And I love that. He wasn't just preparing Noah for the ark in the preparation of that. He prepared him for before, during, and after. Like, I think about that and I'm like, what a good father. He knew everything that Noah would need to sustain him. He knew that Noah would need this for this moment before the flood was even over. Noah, even just being in the middle of it, God was already thinking about this altar. And in this moment with Noah, I think that detail, to me, it has a different meaning. There's a lot more intentionality to it, and it shows a lot of God's heart. And the fact that God didn't load the ark with extra clean animals just for survival. He loaded it for worship. And that first act of, to me, a new season was, of course, planned before God, before God showed us the first act of the storm. And I think there's a lot of importance in that. So to me, it's telling me about what happens when you worship at the start of a new season. So we live in this culture a lot of times that measures our success based on the things that we produce. So when I feel like when we get this breakthrough moment in our lives or in our businesses, our expectation is more often than not, I think that we demonstrate it, or we announce it, or we build on it immediately. We go on Facebook or social media or TikTok or wherever, and we announce the win. There's nothing wrong with that by any means. But what Noah is showing, and I think this is so important, is the simple fact that he is establishing an order to things. He's modeling something for us. So what he's saying is, with his very first act, after he steps out of this season, this storm that he has walked through, he's saying that this does not belong to me. Whatever I'm about to build on this restored ground that took me through the flood, I want to acknowledge it. I want to acknowledge what I just walked through, and the one that was alongside me and walked me through. I want to acknowledge the one that got me through it. And to me, that tells me of how he views the order of things. It's a very deliberate and a costly act of returning something before we accumulate anything. We have to acknowledge the one that has sustained us through all of these seasons, no matter how difficult they've been, no matter how uncomfortable or, moments where it may have felt like, where are you, Lord? We know that he's with us, and he's made a way for us. He moves with intention, no matter what. And so I love the fact that the first thing that Noah does is just stops and sets his eyes and reorients himself on God. And I think that it's intentional. The Bible shows us that intentionally, because more often than not, we want to run ahead and I think we kind of boast in a sense, and we think, wow, I survived that. I did that. I built that. And I don't want to, that's no shame. I've done that more oftentimes than I'd like to admit, where it's like, okay, I just got through that. I don't know how I got through that, but it's acknowledging the one that did, right? It was the Lord. So there's something interesting in the text too, when we look at the original version of it. The burnt offering in this means that the original text describes it as it means something that goes up. So the offering in this scenario is completely consumed. Okay, nothing is kept back. The entire thing in Noah's offering ascends. So I say that because what Noah is doing in this moment is he's not giving God his leftovers. He's giving the first and the whole of it. When I think about business and in that context, right, this to me is one of the most direct things that the passage kind of asks of us, is that before we strategize, before we make a plan, before we do anything or figure anything out, the first thing, especially as we go into a new season, is to figure out, what is this going to look like? Is there going to be, we need to be factoring this altar moment into our life, into our business. Of course, especially our lives, but more specifically for business. And so I want to ask you, is there moments where you intentionally take time, a very deliberate act, where you return everything back to the Lord, and give him the acknowledgement that he deserves, that, yes, you sustained me, Lord. You're the one that got me through this. Now I'm going to give it to you. To me, that's not an act of performance. It's orientation. It's reorienting your mind back to the Lord, and it's setting a new order as you're stepping onto this new ground. Because he's the one that deserves that, right? He's the one that sustained you through every element of it. And it's just that obedience and faith in him that you're just going to stay holding on. You're going to still keep believing in him. In verse 21, when it says, and the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. So this is, this type of language that's being used is anthropomorphic. And so what this means is that God is, what's happening to God is that he's experiencing something described through our own human framing, right? I don't know if it's necessarily that God smelled it. But what it's communicating is not necessarily the smell element of it. It's about reception. And so God received what Noah had offered. The Hebrew text describes it as a soothing aroma, right? But it's kind of a settling fragrance. Gosh, you guys, I can't talk today. I'm all over the place. The same phrase also appears in Leviticus. In the context of offerings, we say that kind of often, that they are received by God. And in that moment, I think the thing that it's trying to describe more so is a language of acceptance, of relationship, that something that is being offered is being genuinely received. So what it's telling us is that God was moved by what Noah did. Noah was not obligated. There was no commandment that God gave to Noah to tell him, hey, once you get off this ark, it doesn't show it anywhere in scripture that I have seen. But he's not telling Noah, when you get off this ark, you better give it all back to me because I got you through. No, Noah wasn't manipulated. He wasn't obligated. And it also shows that, but in that moment, neither was God, right? Noah wasn't doing this as an act to say, okay, you better get me through. Now we're in a new area. God was moved by that. I feel like Noah was too. And to me, it shows that there's something in the posture of genuine worship to the Lord, of returning what was preserved to the first and the whole, and that God responds in a way that shifts what comes next. Because he's in control, right? We know that we don't worship in order to move God into blessing us. And there's no element of it where we can pretend that this text is showing us that worship necessarily changes things. But it does change the atmosphere of what we're building. It changes our mindset. It changes our heart posture. And it orients us and our own hearts towards the Lord and what we're building. And I feel like in what happens next, what it talks about in the text next, is what happens, how God demonstrates that. So bear fruit, bro. You said, how do we worship God? There's so many different ways. So many different ways. You can worship through singing. It's praise. There's nothing that we can give to the Lord when he already has everything that he needs, right? There's nothing that we can offer to him in the sense of anything monetary. But we give him praise, whether that's through singing, whether that's acknowledgement, whether that is through obedience. Gosh, there's so many different ways that we can worship him. But I think it's keeping our eyes on him, to trust him, to give him thanks, to give him all the glory, to give him the praise that he deserves. So in Genesis, it says mankind was created in his image, or it mentions Adam. I have not heard that. I've never seen that in the text. Let's see, God told Noah that animals will have fear and dread of man. That's interesting. Yeah, it says that they would have dominion over man. We were created in his image, Imago Dei. So yeah. But I've never heard that, King David. I don't know if any of you guys have either. But what it goes on to say next, right, is it says, "Then the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake. Although the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, nor will I again destroy every living thing as I have done." So this, to me, it's so beautiful in so many different ways. God says in his heart, never again will I curse the ground. Never again will I destroy all living things. Or all living creatures is what it says. And then he makes a promise that governs every single piece of creation from that point forward, right? It's also, I know that the text describes, it says, what does it say? It says, "The Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake." To me, it's showing that it goes beyond just the animals and humans. I'm sure that there were so many elements of the earth in and of itself that were destroyed. That's part of God's creation. And so I fully believe in this moment that when he makes the promise, it's governing all of creation from that point forward. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, right? That's winter and summer and day and night shall not cease. God in this moment is not just making a promise to Noah, he's establishing a rhythm in this new season that they're entering into. So there's this reliable, perpetual rhythm that he's creating. There's a seed time and a harvest, right? So the ground is always going to respond to what's planted to it. The seasons will always turn. This cold will not stay. If you guys I'm in Nebraska, so if you guys have areas of cold, we're definitely grateful for that. We're also grateful for this next part too. What is night will not always stay night. So I want to sit with that because I feel like it is one of the most direct pieces in the Word in this entire passage, especially for those of us that are in areas of leadership or building something in our businesses. It is a promise that God is making. God is saying that the earth will never stop functioning in the way that it was designed to function. The ground is going to receive what you plant, and the season will turn. The harvest is going to come after the seed time. It reminds me of the passage where it talks about the sower. And we just have to trust in God's word and the fact that he's always going to provide. Did you know that God's rainbow is 7 colors and a gray flag is 6? God's number versus the devil's. I didn't know that, Gilman. Thank you. Also, good morning, Juan. And so whatever you're planting in this season, whatever that looks like, if you are in the middle of your storm, in the middle of uncertainty, sorry, I'm just reading some of these comments. It doesn't matter where you're at. The seed in this moment, what you're planting, it didn't go into the ground that you're stepping in the thought that it's going to just stop working. It went into a ground that God has covenanted to us. He has promised us that it's going to respond. So what that means for us is that the harvest is going to continue to come. And so, I'm not sure. Honestly, King David, I'm going to tell you, I don't really know how to read most of what you're describing in the text of if it's genuine or if you're not. So I can't tell. I'm just skimming through some of them as they come in, but I'm watching in the comments. So sorry if I get distracted, you guys. The thing that this, I want to point this out too, is in Galatians. If you guys were on, I did an afternoon live, just more focused on business. So I did that yesterday. And one of the things I wanted to kind of point out is Galatians 6. But I want to point out Galatians 6:9. And I do that because I only have 6 minutes, you guys, before I have to go. So this might be where we end today. Hopefully my car stays on too for these next 6 minutes. So in Galatians 6, why can't I find Galatians ever? I can never find Galatians quickly. It's also hard at the angle that I'm at. Peter, Galatians. Okay, Galatians 6:9. It says, "And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap, if we do not lose heart." Okay, so I want to point that out because the harvest is covenant language, right? It's when we tie it directly back to Genesis 8, that is a promise. Seed time and harvest are not going to cease. That's what it says in the word. Paul, when he's speaking in Galatians, he's not giving motivational language to people, right? He's not providing a motivational principle. I'm sure it did motivate some people, but that's not all that he was doing. He was pointing back to the covenant that God had given to us in Genesis 8, where he made that covenant with the ground. And it tells us that the harvest is coming. The condition of working harder is no longer there. The condition is not giving up, right? Where the condition isn't to say, I'm going to go more, do more, be more, strive more, perform more. No, he's saying just don't give up. Just trust in the Lord. Then when I look at Psalm 126, that was another one that I wanted to reference to you guys. So Psalm 126 is one that I believe is just so, I love Psalms. That it's so relevant in this moment. It says, give me 1 second, guys. Okay. It says, when the Lord brought back the captivity of Zion, we were like those who dream. Then our mouth was filled with laughter and our tongues with singing. Then they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are glad. Bring back our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. He who continually goes forth weeping, bearing seeds for sowing, shall doubtless come again with reckoning, bringing his sheaves with him. Okay, so in this one, I feel like Psalms 126 adds another layer. And I love when it talks about those who reap in tears. Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. Okay, and then it says, he who continually goes forth weeping, bearing seeds for sowing, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. Okay, the seed into the ground. Right, the seed into the ground in a hard season, more specifically. To me, that shows like with tears, right? You're going into it with probably sadness, with it being hard, with it being difficult. But it's showing that harvest is going to come back in joy. The emotional condition of the planting in this text isn't showing that the planting is what's going to determine the outcome of the harvest. Covenant that the Lord made with us does. And so when I look at all of these passages together, it's showing us that God made a commitment to the ground, to the seasons, to the rhythms, to the seed time, to the harvest. And that commitment that he has with us has never been revoked. There's never once been a time since this has happened that God has revoked that. So what that tells me is that when we plant something in faith and obedience in the hard and uncertain conditions of our lives, in those seasons where we have no idea what God is trying to do, when it is so hard and it feels like the pressure is coming from all sides, it is in the moment that God, I feel like, asks us to remember this covenant. And I think a lot of times it's not whether the ground still works, right? Because we know that it does. The question is more so whether we're going to stay in the field long enough to see what comes up. And so I encourage you guys, if this stayed with you. First of all, I'm grateful that you guys are on with me this morning, and pivoting with me, and I'm just grateful. I know it was a shorter live than what I normally do, but if this landed with you, what field am I saying? Are you? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that question. More so, it's just a metaphor. Let's see. Anyway, if this was something that resonated with you guys, I will be putting on the replays here soon. It is something that I'm building a little bank for us, for you guys to, catch any of the replays for any of this. So I will let you know when those are available. But to me, I think my favorite part of all of this was the piece about the clean animals being put into the ark for a very specific time. And I love that God was thinking about the altar before the storm started. And it helps me in these times when I'm going through so much to remember to keep my eyes on the Lord. Because it shows me that He has been thinking about the worship that I will have, meaning that as I get through this new season, that I'm going to want to praise Him because it's going to be good. He has plans for me to prosper. So He knows that when I step out of this new season, I'm going to be transformed. And that tells me that when you guys enter out of the season that you are in, or when you're in seasons of storm, that it's going to be something that you're going to want to worship afterwards, because He's going to be with you throughout all of it. And it's something that He is going to have something good for you. So when I come back on Monday, because I go live Monday through Friday, if this is your first time here, I welcome you. I apologize I didn't get an opportunity to say that earlier on. Thank you all for the hearts and the shares and the follows and the gifts. They mean so much to me. I go live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Central. And if it is something where I'm building it to where I'm going to send you guys notifications and recaps, if that's something that you're interested, please let me know. I'm creating a link for you guys to be able to just go follow it and get info on that. But I thank you guys for your support. I'm going to go off and teach these little ones today. I am blessed and honored that I get the opportunity to be doing this morning. And so I'm going to head into the meeting so that I can go do that. But I pray that you guys all have a beautiful weekend, and I will see you on Monday.